There's things you can say on the internet that you can be arrested for, but you wouldn't be arrested for it if you said it in the street, because there's a communication act. So we have less free speech online than we do in real life. So you can write a song about the M-word, make millions out of it, have it played on TV, the radio, but I'm not allowed to sing along with it.
Yes.
Because I've got to go, "Herbada," and I can't say it, and I carry on, "Herbada."
But if you're next to a black man who's singing it, he can sing it. Oh, that word is
the banning of these words and giving these words those special meanings is all about power.
Yes.
I can do this, you can't.
Yeah.
I can call my friend that word, you can't.
Yeah.
And it's all about power.
Yeah.
If you want to destroy civilization, one of the things you have to do is destroy its heroes.
Yeah.
And they've been attacking Winston Churchill now non-stop for like 20 years.
Yeah.
Non-stop. And when you think they call him a fascist, he was the man who beat fascism.
Yes.
If it wasn't for him, Europe would be fascist now. We'd all be speaking German if it wasn't for him.
Yeah.
But to destroy a nation, you've got to destroy its heroes.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 60, Nick.
60?
Of The Mayor and I.
It'll soon be 100.
It's actually 61 next, but 60 of The Mayor and I, with me, Lindsay Khan, and the Mayor to be Nick Buckley.
Yeah.
Once what's his face resigns and tries to take over leadership. If you like what you see, please thumbs up, subscribe, buy the Mayor a coffee. I keep forgetting, I've not promoted that before.
Oh, right, yeah.
Coffee,
yeah.
And comment, please, which is important.
And subscribe. For some reason, this last week, we seem to have stalled a little bit this week. Viewers have stalled, subscribers have stalled.
I was hoping we'd be at 25,000, but we've not quite got that.
24,750.
So if you want to make an old man happy, just subscribe. And I don't mean me either. So episode 60, where we discuss the events of the past week that have interested us. You and I kind of have a glimpse. You don't really know what we're going to talk about, but you and I have a kind of interaction during the week to do that. Just on good news this week, or the most important news, Man United won.
Yeah.
4-0. And you actually texted me during the match or after the match saying, is that good enough for you or something?
Someone was in a pub and mentioned it. I thought, 4-0? I thought you'll be happy. So I thought,
very happy, but we don't want to get too...
Was you at the game?
No, I wasn't. I was actually in London, which I'll talk about later. But I was kind of trying to watch it on the phone on the way back, but couldn't. Even better, Liverpool beat City. Well, as a true Man United fan, it isn't better because you never want Liverpool to win anyway. However,
no, exactly.
We are loving the humiliation of Man City at the moment, who have lost 6 games in a trot.
Have they?
Won 6 games in a trot. And as a result, Pep Guardiola, who is the manager of Man City for our non-footballing listeners, was so aggravated he scratched his face and had a massive scar down his nose.
I saw that. I didn't know what that was about.
Yes, which is really kind of interesting. Quite sad, really, that he's so intense.
Self-harm.
Yeah. So that's kind of the big news of the week, really. There's nothing else to discuss, is there?
Well, should we go?
So I want to start with... we always have a little section on political prisoners, don't we? So I think our listeners and I need some information here, because Mahyar Tousi, who's a friend of yours, there was a rumour... And Mahyar Tousi, for our listeners, he's an Iranian who now lives in this country. He's very kind of politically active, has a very active YouTube. I think it's got like nearly 1 million.
Yeah, nearly 1 million now.
1 million listeners. And there was a rumour going around this week that he was about to be arrested by the police for something he posted about a Palestinian or the Hamas march. However, one of my moles... I have a number of moles now, Nick, who write to me secretly, telling me things about you. You know, similar to Greg Wallace. Wrote to me and said, ignore this, it's a grift, and accused Mahyar of being a grifter, who basically fabricates stories in order to earn money from his YouTube channel. Now, as a close personal friend of Mahyar, would you like to disabuse us or otherwise of that, of what you understand of what happened to Mahyar Tousi?
Well, I wouldn't say I'm a close personal friend of Mahyar Tousi. I've met him on many occasions, and we've chatted, and I've been on his show many times. I've heard this, that they're going to look to arrest him, but nothing seems to have happened. And it's a bit harsh calling him a grifter unless you can point to other things he's done like this that raised money that he kept. So unless someone can prove that to me, you know, the accusation of a grifter is a bit tough, because he's running a business. It's a media business, so he needs to earn money out of that. His production's getting bigger and bigger all the time. He's got staff to pay, so the fact he earns money out of what he does isn't an issue, because he's running it as a business. You know, he doesn't say it's a charity and he's making a fortune out of it. He says it's a business. So I've been waiting to see if he was going to be arrested, but it doesn't seem to have happened. Otherwise it'd be all over the internet. There was a gentleman who's on Talk TV who I know, who I like, Andre Walker. He did a YouTube video yesterday, I think it was, talking about it, and he was adamant that this could be happening, and he was saying he's going to put 10 grand of his own money into a defence fund. He's going to then raise more money, and we can't have this. And just because Mahyar Tousi is not a mainstream media representative, he's what you would call a people's journalist, basically.
There's a special term for the journalists, these kind of journalists now who are not part of the mainstream.
Yeah, exactly.
Tommy Robinson calls himself one, but I can't remember the terminology.
Is it people's journalist? Something like
that.
So that's what he would class himself as. But he's not a man claiming to be a journalist for 4 people and one's his mum following him. He's got nearly 1 million subscribers, and you know, and it's a fully fledged business. So I've no idea what's going on there.
Do you know what's caused this? Or
no.
Oh right, so it's just kind of a rumour that nobody really.
I think people know, but I think the people I listen to, like Andre Walker, he must be at the moment cautious about talking about it, because in case he breaks a law or he talks about something he shouldn't have spoken about. Because isn't that how the government have got us all thinking now? That we're all afraid.
Yeah, but I'm a bit nervous, and we're going to talk later about the idea that you and I are part of a group that's now called, woke rights. Have you heard?
I have,
this? I want to talk about this later.
It's an interesting topic.
Yeah, it is an interesting topic, because I think the centre-right that I would label us as are in the ascendancy now. I think I'm pretty sure of that, which is hopefully good news for our listeners. It may be the reason that our subscribers started to take off in the ascendancy. But as with any movement in the ascendancy, there are people who will take advantage of it, where there are real stories as well. So, for example, the Telegraph journalist, I can't remember her name now.
Alison Pearson.
Alison Pearson. That's a real story, a real, horrific abuse of power by the police, and these things need public publicity. I'm just nervous now that people might try and take advantage of what's happening and get us a bad reputation.
That is always an issue, and it will happen, and there will be people out there who will use any cause, any incident to make money or to cause trouble or to make themselves look special or feel special. So every cause throughout the whole world at any time always has these people who may do something like that. So it's a valid concern, and it will happen.
Now, something that is not a fake, and that definitely happened, a guy called Sean Beach in Manchester, I don't know if he was at the Enough is Enough protest when I was there, but he has just been given 4.5 years for breaking a policeman's nose. So this is somebody who was involved in a scuffle with the police in a protest, I think related to the Southport murders, and he's been given very quickly 4.5 years of jail for breaking a policeman's nose. I would ask you and our gentle listeners, does this remind you of anything?
It does. Reminds me of 2 things. The first thing is the Manchester Airport incident, where it broke a female police officer's nose, haven't even been charged yet. And I'm for a tough criminal justice system. So I'm for sending people to jail for 4.5 years for breaking a police officer's nose. I want that. But you can't have it in just certain cases and not in other cases.
Yeah.
There's incidents where police officers have had their arms broken, they've been beaten up, and the offenders don't even go to jail.
Yes.
They're mine 4.5 years.
Yeah.
This is just another case of two-tier system. I'm glad he's gone to jail. But when you look at other similar cases, you know straight away he's being treated unfairly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not glad he's gone to jail. I think if he was involved in a protest, protesting for something he believed in, and there was a scuffle and somebody had to get their nose broken, well, I mean, that could have happened either way. He could have had his nose broken in the scuffle as well. So whether it was I don't know what happened or what the accident was, but 4.5 years for going on a protest and getting involved in a scuffle, I don't think that's suitable. And I think you're right. People are getting away with the horrific crimes and not getting any prison time.
Yeah.
And once again, we've got an example of somebody, a white British man, protesting in a situation, maybe getting a bit carried away, and getting 4.5 years of his life for that. People have fights in nightclubs where the nose is broken and don't end up in prison for that.
A bit different when you're assaulting an emergency worker whose job is to protect the public. So I have no sympathy with a man being punished and being sent to jail. My issue is he's been made an example of. I want everybody to be sent to jail for 4.5 years if you do something like that. But I know for a fact 99% of the time you won't even go to jail for doing that. Why is he special? Why have they singled him out? And it's because he's perceived by the government and the elite and the authority as a problem, as a white supremacist, as far right, as someone, if we don't punish him, other people go on the streets and protest as well. So this is just part of that political prisoner process where we need to make examples of people. It just turns out he also needs punishing. I just think he's being punished over and above what anybody else would have got for that crime.
And where are the Manchester airport attackers?
Still sat at home.
And nothing's... do we know what's happening with them?
No idea.
And nobody's talking about it. The press aren't talking about it.
The only thing different on that is Reform UK said they're going to initiate a private prosecution.
But I've not even heard anything about that.
No.
So, there's something slightly more chilling in terms of this political prisoner, and it's not in this country. It's in Germany. A 64-year-old retiree called Stefan Niehoff. There's a minister in Germany called Robert Habeck. I don't know what his role is. And this 64-year-old retiree pasted on his YouTube or Twitter, has a couple of thousand followers, a joke basically calling Robert Habeck a moron. It's called Schwarz. Apparently Schwarzkopf means moron. You know the shampoo or the whatever. It means moron apparently. And he put a picture of him with that underneath it. So he's now being prosecuted in a German court. Yeah. Because there are now new laws in Germany, which I wasn't even aware of, I don't know if you were aware of, where you can be prosecuted under the offence of insult. So...
offensive insult to a politician.
Yes, to a public figure.
Yeah, a public figure, yeah.
So when you, on many occasions, have called David Lammy a moron, which I haven't, by the way, folks, just I have actually, but the rest pretend I haven't. But somebody like you who calls David Lammy a moron, if this law came into effect in this country, you could be prosecuted and sent to prison.
There's a law very similar to that in our country over the Communications Act.
Right.
So there's things you can say on the internet that you can be arrested for, but you wouldn't be arrested for it if you said it in the street, because there's a Communication Act. So we have less free speech online than we do in real life.
Right. Right.
So if David Lammy could prove me calling him a moron online caused harassment, alarm and distress, that's an arrestable offence.
Oh, really?
But if I called him a moron to his face, there's no such legislation, no protection there.
It's worth a trip down to London for that.
I met him once in the House of Lords. I sat table next to him. I was very tempted to speak to him, but I was a guest of Baroness Fox.
I just think there's something wrong there, very wrong, both in what's happening in Germany and what you just described. You should be able to insult people. You should be able to offend people. You should be able to. I mean, there's a guy called Charlie Veach, who I think you watch or know, and I've been watching a few of his videos recently. And he goes into Manchester City Centre, deliberately looks for trouble, and not to cause trouble, but for areas where trouble is brewing, and then gets involved in these very complex altercations where he insults them. Yeah. So if it's a fat bloke the other day with a broken arm, he was going, "Hey fatty, Humpty Dumpty," or whatever, which I thought was hilarious. Yeah. But that's insulting people, and I think you're allowed to do that as long as he don't call him a black bastard or something. As long as he doesn't break. In fact, I'm not even sure about the black bastard being a problem. I'm just, I think something's gone wrong, and I don't know when it happened, where you could insult people, and it wasn't an issue, and now it is.
And that's because we got to a stage where words are violence.
Yes.
Now, who classes what's insulting? Certain things would say that's insulting. Calling someone a moron is insulting. Still should be allowed, but we know that was meant as an insult.
It was meant as an insult, yeah.
But there's things I could say that you would find insulting that I didn't mean to be insulting.
Yes.
And it goes back to that been discussed many times. Hate speech.
Yeah.
Who defines what hate speech is? Who defines what's insulting? Because what I will accept and find not insulting, somebody else won't. So therefore, we've got a law system now that's all based along perception.
Yeah.
Not black and white. It's perception. It's how did that make me feel? And that then determines if a crime has been committed or not.
It's highly subjective, I suppose.
Yeah, that's no way to run a criminal justice system. Yeah. How did you feel?
It's highly subjective, and my belief, and I think my views are different to yours now. My belief is that the only thing that you shouldn't be allowed to do is basically smack somebody, hit somebody, basically. I think you should be able to say what the hell you want, including words that you and I might find insulting and offensive, such as the N-word, such as packies, such as O-word. I think those words should be allowed, and people should, and I think that the public will moderate anybody who goes too far with this kind of insulting behaviour. And I've seen it, you and I have seen it in public, where somebody starts attacking somebody verbally, and other people step in and say, whoa, back off. I've seen that, I'm sure you've seen that as well. So I think we need to get rid of all this stuff and just have none of it, including the online insulting thing. Just get rid of it all. Allow people to say what they feel, what they think, but not commit acts of violence or whatever, which will obviously cause physical harm to people.
I completely agree with you, apart from one point which we've discussed before: incitement to violence. I think incitement to violence is the only restriction I want on free speech.
Yeah, but isn't that subjective as well?
It is, but it needs a lot of rules connected to it to make sure it hits a certain intensity before we prosecute for it. So me joking online or me saying online, I'm sick of those, whoever, we just need to kill them all. That's not incitement to violence. No, incitement to violence is me online saying something like, those people I hate, they live at this house and they pray at this temple. Why don't you go to such a place, buy the explosives there, and I'll tell you how you can set up the explosives that will trap them all in. That's incitement to violence.
But that lady in Cheshire, the 53-year-old or 63-year-old who said, go and blow up the mosques, I don't regard that as incitement.
Because there's no intent. So you have to have something like intent. There has to be a viable threat.
So you're saying you don't agree with incitement to violence if it is specific, directed effectively. So somebody's saying, oh, we should burn down all the mosques. It's not specific, it's not it's not directed at a particular mosque or a particular person. It's just a general comment enshrining what she believed at that moment. And I don't think she should have gone to jail for that.
Well, the police already have that rule, because if you phoned up the police today and said over a phone call, I told you I was going to kill you, the police would go, oh, we'll log it. They're not turning up at people's houses who said they're going to kill them because they know there's no intent. They know the threat level's extremely low. Blah blah. If it was the 9th time I've done it and you've seen me outside your house holding knives, they might take it seriously then. But they'll only take it seriously if you are insulting or threatening one of the special people.
Yeah.
You know, LGBT, Muslims, blacks, ethnic minorities. It has to be one of the special people. They'll take it seriously. If you're not one of the special people, they don't care.
Yeah.
And rightly so.
Now, that's kind of covered the political prisoners. We talked about the Manchester airport attackers. I want to tell you, because we're going to cover all these, about a rider had an attack. I was in London at the weekend, as I said. I was coming back from, I missed the United match. And I had a meeting on the Friday morning, so I came down on the Thursday night and then got a taxi on the Friday morning. So the taxi drove into the city, but the city was empty. It was nearly empty, basically.
What?
And when I arrived there, the guy I was going to see, he said, the city's now deserted on Friday, everybody's working from home.
Oh, right.
He said all the local cafes have to shut and stuff. It's terrible.
Right.
It's like a desert. All these arseholes working from home when people who are still in factories working. But that's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the ride with the cabbie. Because he was, I mean, it's always a joke, isn't it, about a London cabbie, what they...
Yeah.
And it was strange, obviously, because I'm a brown man and I look brown and all that sort of stuff. And I got in the taxi and he started conversation, usual all, you know, how are you, mate, and all that sort of stuff. And then, without any kind of hesitation, which I thought was fantastic, he launched into Sadiq Khan.
Yeah.
What a bastard he was, how he was ruined. And by the way, London is ruined. Because I've seen Lawrence Fox and Calvin Robinson talk about London, how they both left London. London is ruined because they basically, it's 20-mile-an-hour zones. I don't know if you knew that everywhere. It's they've what were formerly two-way streets are now one-way streets because they've put bloody cycle lanes in there. So it's just a nightmare getting around London. And the busy parts, I mean, I stay in Mayfair, which is quiet. It's nice to get back there. But the rest of London, the main part of London, is just chaotic. Well, you know where I stay because you've stayed there. Yeah. So this cabbie just launched into this long diatribe about London, how Sadiq Khan had loot. He said Sadiq Khan doesn't understand the traffic because he's driven around in a convoy. Yeah. He's driven around in a big Range Rover.
A bomb-proof Range Rover.
He's got two cars accompanying. He said the other day, apparently, he takes his dog for... He lives down south of the river somewhere, but apparently he took his dog for a walk in this local park next to him, but he fancied a change, so his dog, the three vehicles then drove across London to another park so he could walk his dog. And this is a guy who talks about using your bicycle and all that crap. So he talked about Sadiq Khan, talked about Keir Starmer. So he said amongst the London cabbies, it's very well known what's going to happen or what Keir Starmer, and this is, can I say this is what he alleges, Nick?
Yeah.
You know, so what this guy alleged, and I'm not going to tell you who he is or what his cab number is. You'll have to torture me. There's three things that is well known in London now about Keir Starmer by the cabbie population, including one of the cabbies whose son is very high up in the police. And there's three primary things which we've suggested in the past, but apparently this is what is now known amongst the cabbie population in London. One, that Keir Starmer and his wife separated. Yep,
heard that story, yeah.
The second is that he has a child out of wedlock.
Yep, that's what everyone's talking about.
And the third one is that he's a bisexual.
Yep, heard that one as well.
And he's been having an affair with Lord Ali.
Right.
So this guy said this is the reality of what's happening with Keir. By the way, he didn't know anything who I was or what I was.
You didn't get any carry on. The Mayor and I watch that all the time. It's my favourite podcast. He didn't do that.
No, he didn't. Then he said something which I thought was really interesting, and I can genuinely tell you, 10 or 15 years ago, if somebody had said this to me, I would have said, please don't say that or whatever. And what he said is, what about those packies in Manchester?
Yeah.
What about those packies in Manchester who smashed at that woman's woman's face? Why are they not in prison?
Yeah.
Why are they not? You know, all these guys who've been put in prison, arrested, people we know. You mentioned Peter. What's he called?
Guy who died.
Yeah. What's he called? Peter. I can't remember his name now. Peter Blake is that something? No, it's not Peter Blake. But anyway.
Yeah.
He mentioned his name.
Lynch.
Peter Lynch, and all that. And he said these packies in London. Why haven't they been arrested? Why aren't they in jail? And when he said it, I didn't think, oh, he's using the word packies. I thought, you're bloody right, mate. Why haven't they been arrested? You know what I mean? And it was kind of a revelation for me But so I got back to my wife and I said, this guy, this taxi driver just said this, and he used the word packies. And I said, I wasn't upset or offended at all. Because I actually thought, yeah, he's right. They should have been. I mean, forget his terminology. His anger was spilling through when he was saying this. It was actually quite funny, because the roads were empty as we're heading into the city. And he could see we were getting to the end of the journey, but he was enjoying the talk so much, because obviously I joined in, as you can imagine. He slowed down a bit long, because he was desperate to get. I think he didn't expect me to come back with what I said, and then when I got out, I shook hands with him. We had a good laugh. But that I thought that was an interesting point, that he said that word, the packies word, and I didn't mind.
Yeah, I mean, the packie word is a very strange word, because you know where it comes from?
Pakistan, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an abbreviation of the word Pakistanis.
Pakistan means land of the Pakis.
Yeah.
So when Pakistani people came over in the 50s and 60s, they called themselves Pakis.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That's why we call them Pakis, because they call themselves Pakis. Yeah. Because Pakistan is the land of the Pakis. Paki is their ethnic tribe. Just like you get Afghanistan, land of the Afghans, Uzbekistan. That's what it means. So the word Paki was never a derogatory word. It was a word they called themselves, because that's what they are. They're Pakis. Now, 70s came along, and the 80s, and then suddenly we want a special word like the M word. We haven't got an M word when people have a go at us. Let's use the P word as the M word. And they started saying the word Paki was derogatory. You go to Australia, it's used freely in Australia.
Is it? I didn't know.
Because it's still used in its original intent, as in someone from Pakistan's a Paki.
Yeah.
But it's changed its meaning over here, and it was done on purpose to, a bit like Islamophobia, they wanted a word.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a measure of my journey, isn't it? I've come to the point where I remember once years ago when I was a student, some white girl was going out with a Pakistani guy, and she was calling him a Paki in the pub, and I took offence, ruined the evening actually. For everybody, by saying it's, laying into it. But my journey is such now.
So let me get this straight. We've got a girl who's dating a Pakistani man.
A Paki.
Yeah. A Paki.
Yeah.
And you take offence of a word she uses.
Correct.
When she's quite happy dating that man.
Yes.
But you... Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I was wrong.
You were woke.
I was massively woke, and I was massively wrong, and I ruined it. And I apologise to the people. If you remember that evening, I apologise for ruining it as a day, because the guy didn't mind. She was using it in a friendly.
So he was there as well.
Oh yeah. He was there. She was calling.
I'm not sure we can be friends.
She was. Can I just say, I was probably about 25 at the time. So. But I've come.
You've been on a journey, haven't you?
I've been on a long journey, and that journey now is I really do not give a stuff if somebody uses the term Paki. Huh? I really don't care. And it goes back to what we were just talking about. We've got to stop this shit about people being offended by words all the time. Yeah. This crap. And I would include the N word in that. Yeah. I think we need to break through this now. And we need to just...
But the N-word's not that offensive to black people, because they use it all the bloody time.
Yeah.
So you can write a song about the N-word, make millions out of it, have it played on TV and the radio, but I'm not allowed to sing along with it.
Yes.
Because I've got to go, herba, and I can't say it, and I carry on, herba.
But if you're next to a black man who's singing it, he can sing
it.
Oh, that word is
the banning of these words and giving these words those special meanings is all about power.
Yes.
I can do this, you can't. Yeah. I can call my friend that word, you can't. Yeah. And it's all about power.
Yeah. And that taxi driver was furious about the situation in Manchester, and he was totally right to be furious about it. And he used that word to express his fury at that situation. And I thought, fine, good on you. Good on you, mate. And I would have said 15 years ago, if somebody had said that in front of me, not knowing that I'm a Pakistani myself, or I've got Pakistani heritage, I think I would have coloured. I would have felt a flush going on. And I didn't, Nick. And I was so proud of myself in that moment. We've got to get rid of all this crap. Yeah. People like that cab driver should be allowed to express his feelings and emotions. and his anger as he did.
Yeah.
And I was so pleased. And I think the second thing was, I think it's a step that we're moving in the right direction, that he felt able to talk to me in that way.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just thought, thank God, because he didn't know my feelings when we first started talking. When I joined in, he got really excited, but he was expressing his anger, his frustration at how London had been ruined by Sadiq Khan, how what was happening with these people in prison and all that sort of stuff, and I thought it was fantastic.
Things have definitely changed. Things have had enough, and we're definitely hitting a tipping point. We really are.
Yeah. On the Saturday, we went to the National Portrait Gallery, and which has just reopened. It's been refurbished. It looks just the same to me. I'm not quite sure what. There's kind of three floors. There's top floor is kind of the sort of 1400s to the 7. I may get this wrong, so if any of our viewers are watching and they can correct me, I'm sure they will do. And then the second floor is kind of the 1800s to sort of 1920s or something like that, which is the more interesting one. And then there's the modern bit, which is the crap. The crap. And I'm not joking. There was a wall, and I can only so when we went to the modern bit, there was a wall. I can only describe it as a wall of grifters. Yeah. Mainly brown and black faces, but really kind of grubby people like Bonnie Greer. Have you heard of her? Yeah. Shami Chakrabarti. And these people, if you go back up to the other floor, which is up to the sort of end of the 19th century, there are such phenomenal people there, artists, engineers, Isambard Kingdom Brunel, real phenomenal people. Yeah. And then you go to this grubby floor, which is modern people, and it's just basically a bunch of talentless, and I would say on the wall, I think I sent you a picture, didn't I? On the wall, I would say 80% are brown or black faces. Yeah. But are brown or black faces that haven't achieved anything, Nick.
Yeah, that you never heard of.
Never heard of, or people I have heard of who are just despicable, like Shami Chakrabarti or whatever. This is the woman who said, kids shouldn't, there shouldn't be private schools, and sent her kids to private schools. She's just a grubby person, basically. And it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing. They were putting these people forward as the epitome of our modern society. I mean, Beckham was in there as well, who shouldn't be there as far as I can see. And then even more insulting, they had Rashford there next to Bobby Charlton. Bobby Charlton, who is a legend, or was a legend, next to Rashford, who's a mediocre, has-been United player. I mean, it's just shocking.
And this is DEI. This is that woke agenda of we don't have enough famous or talented black and brown people, so mediocre ones will do. Just get them on the wall, because otherwise it looks like we're racist.
Yeah, it was just, and then peppered on the other centuries, there was an occasional black face, and then there was a particular section, and I've written it down because I have to read it out to you, about empire. So this was kind of mid 18th to end of 19th century pictures of everything that was done in empire, and it said, so this is how it summarised it: as the empire grew, Britain became extremely wealthy at the expense of countries and cultures it colonised. That was it. It didn't say, and by the way, they gave this to these countries, they created this for these countries, they stopped. It didn't say any of that. It just said Britain became at the expense.
I would argue the point of the word expense, because I'm not aware of any countries that became poorer because of the British Empire.
Correct.
All those countries became richer.
Yes.
And became more civilised. And became more modern, and got a better justice system and better infrastructure. We left all those countries in better positions when we found them. Some we left a lot better position, some we left a little bit in a better position, but we left all of them in a better position. It wasn't at the expense of.
Yeah, but that's when you walk around that gallery now, that's the impression you get.
Yeah, but that's because it's been officially now decolonised.
what has the gallery?
The gallery, which
Oh,
means
yeah.
which means that anything to do with empire and colonialism has to be explained, has to be taken down. It was the poor native people of those lands who suffered, and it's all bollocks.
And in the middle of this, in the I think in the 1950s, there's a magnificent portrait at one end of it of all the kind of cabinet ministers in the government, and in the middle is Winston Churchill looking out at the viewer. It's a phenomenal picture, and the way they are maligning that man now, who was such a phenomenal hero for this country, for this world, who say, it's just unbelievable.
If you want to destroy civilization, one of the things you have to do is destroy its heroes.
Yeah.
And they've been attacking Winston Churchill now non-stop for like 20 years.
Yeah.
Non-stop. And when you think they call him a fascist, he was the man who beat fascism.
Yes.
If it wasn't for him, Europe would be fascist now. We'd all be speaking German if it wasn't for him.
Yeah.
But to destroy a nation, you've got to destroy its heroes.
Yeah. I mean, I would recommend our gentle listeners to go and see. There are some fantastic pictures there, but just avoid the first floor where all the grifters, the grifters are.
The free entrance.
It's free entrance. Yeah. They always try and take money off you, but I never give any money. All this stuff should be free as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Our taxes fund it all, pay for it all.
Yeah, of course
the upkeep and everything.
Yeah, I know you shouldn't. I never give money when I go in there. One thing that happened this week is the assisted dying bill got passed.
We were wrong, weren't we?
Or did we? I can't remember.
We both said we don't think it'll get through.
Yeah. I mean, do you find it kind of sinister in Australia, the way it just happened?
Over a couple of weeks discussion, no one had ever given it any thought before. It's a shocking state of affairs, the way our country is falling, and we're falling fast now.
It is, yeah.
There's many things we can't get discussed in Parliament that we can't change in the country, but when it comes to killing each other and the state killing us, we can rush that through in a couple of weeks. Absolutely shocking.
I sent you a picture that one of my kids sent me, and it was an advert on the Tube. I sent you the picture, and your comment was actually quite funny. But I don't know if anybody's seen this, our listeners, but it's a picture of a young white woman. Young white woman, long blonde hair.
Nice looking white woman,
dancing. Dancing. And what she's saying, what the caption says, "My dying wish is that my family won't see me suffer." So the message here, before you came back with your rather tart comment, which I thought was hilarious, a young vibrant woman is talking about killing herself, basically, and that is now being advertised on the Tube. So I think there's two things here. First of all, your comment when you saw it, and secondly, do you know who's behind these adverts and all this? I think you may do. I think my wife told me about it, but I'm interested if you know. But what was your first thought when you...
My comment, which I sent to you, which was the one that jumped out at me straight away, we finally got a white person in an advert, and she's there advertising killing people.
Yes.
Because you couldn't put a black or brown person in that, because then you're advertising killing black or brown people. That makes you racist.
Yes.
But killing people, we need a white person doing that.
Yeah, so the message here is it's okay to kill white people, isn't it? It's okay for white people to die under the state, the state to kill white people, young white people, basically. That's the message, isn't it?
Every advert in London, in the underground, there's black and brown people all the time.
Yeah.
But talking about killing people, put a white person on there.
So do you know about this organisation behind?
No, I don't. I know that Esther Ranson is in favour of it, and she is the face behind this, the public face. But I'm not sure of anything else.
I've not explored this fully, but my understanding is there's an organisation called Global around. I've not heard. I don't know. Maybe our listeners will have heard of it. And they are behind all these kind of sinister things, the assisted dying things, and all that kind of things as well. And the whole assisted dying thing, there's all sorts of creepy ideas around organ harvesting and other things like that, which are going on there as well. I think the comment that somebody made to me, which may have been one of my moles, was that, we, during COVID, which was one of the most one of the biggest infringement of our civil liberties we've seen in decades, if not centuries. During COVID, the entire premise behind this, including all those grotesque adverts, was to stop Granny from dying, wasn't it? Now we've just passed a law to kill grannies, basically, haven't we? So the hypocrisy is quite staggering, isn't it?
Every dictator, every evil regime always tells the people we're doing this through kindness. That's what they did to us in COVID, and now they're taking a 180 and they're using the same line on assisted dying. It's through kindness. We're going to kill you through kindness. We're going to allow you to abort your children, kill your children through kindness.
Yeah.
Everything is through kindness. And anybody who tells you and uses that phrase has an alternative motive, because life's hard, and life's always been hard, and we all struggle through life. It may be easier now than it was 200 years ago, but we compare it to the people around us. So life is still hard. But our government, again, not just this government, for decades now, just losing their way. How can we get to this stage where a government thinks its job is to help you kill yourself? If your life isn't good enough and you're suffering, well, you can kill yourself. Every religion condemns it, because it's always been a problem with humans, about humans ending their own lives. So religions have wrote it into their scripture about how you're going to go to hell and things like that. But we're now allowing it to happen, and not just allowing it to happen, we're now giving the state the power to do it. That's a scary part for me. I don't want to see my mum suffer in the last 3 weeks alive, slowly drowning in her own fluids and stuff like that. That's horrendous. I don't want to watch that. But I'll tell you what's even scarier, allowing the government to kill her.
To make that decision
for
you.
Because I'll tell you what, in a couple of years' time, they'd be killing her before 3 weeks. Or we think next year you could be that ill, we might as well kill you now.
I mean, how does it actually work, this, or how will it work?
From my reading of it, it's if you're in pain and the professionals think you're not going to last more than a couple of months, then you can opt for this.
Is it your choice, though?
That's what they're saying.
Right, okay, but it is at the moment.
Yeah.
But we, in all these situations, we know it will spiral out of control.
Well, do you remember the stories of old people paying 19 grand to get a slate replaced on their roofs? You've heard those stories. Yes. It was their choice to pay for it.
Yes.
You can easily confuse and easily get older people who are losing it.
Yeah, that's a really good
to do what you want them to do.
You can.
Yeah, so look, we still prosecuted those rogue builders for taking 19 grand for replacing one tile.
Yeah.
So what's the difference between your son or daughter convincing, their mum or dad that it's time to go?
And in fact, the builder would have an argument whether it was their choice. So that's the same as assisted dying, isn't it? But it goes further than that, doesn't it? Because there's obviously a scenario, and we know it's going to happen, don't we? Let's not pretend, as I guess a lot of these stupid MPs would, that this won't happen. There are, people are obsessed with money in this world, consumed with money. And if you're a child of a parent that you don't particularly like, and they have a lot of assets, there will be, and it will happen, there will be a situation where they will be coerced, forced into taking their own lives so that their children can benefit.
There's a story in this country every year of children killing their parents.
Yeah.
For the money, the inheritance.
Yeah.
Every year.
Yeah.
And there's stories from other countries as well. It's already happening. All we're doing is making it easier, making the state do it.
Yeah. And apparently this year, so far, there have been 30,000 assisted dying deaths around the globe.
Right.
That's in places like Canada, Belgium. And it's a big number, that. It's a lot of people.
Well, it is because it's the Western world. It's nowhere else in the world.
Yeah.
It's the Western countries.
And there are these cases that you and I have talked about. And there was one in Belgium with a 22-year-old. There was another one in Canada, I think you mentioned, or Holland, I think it was, of young people opting for this based on mental. So at the moment, ours isn't about mental pressure. It's to do with terminal illness, I think. But it will become that.
Of course it will.
Yeah.
Because once you broke the seal on this, other pressure groups will pop up. Why can we terminate the life of someone who's slowly dying in pain? But I'm in pain all the time.
Yeah.
And my pain's going to last another 50 years. Why can't I opt for that?
Yeah.
Well, I can see all the arguments coming through now. It's only up to 3 months. Let's say it's 3 months of assisted dying. Well, why is it 3 months? The doctor said it's going to be 3.5 months for me. Why do I have to wait another 2 weeks in pain before I can have assisted dying? It's 6 months for me. Why do I have to wait for 3 months living in agony? It'll be creep.
Yeah. This lady, Kim Ledbetter, who's the woman who proposed it all, she's the sister of the woman who died, isn't she, I think?
During the Brexit referendum. Her sister was an MP, Jo
Cox.
Yeah.
Jo Cox.
Yeah. Yeah, so she stood in for her, and on sympathy, she won this seat. And in her area is the Buckley Grammar School.
She's done nothing about that.
She'd never even mentioned the teacher who's still in hiding now.
Yeah.
She'd like to euthanize him. She'll get a bit more Muslim votes in the area if they euthanize him.
Tim Stanley in the Telegraph said something which I think was quite poignant after this was passed. He said, "We are not the same country we were yesterday," which I think is what you're basically thinking.
We're not, and there's an argument to be made here that we can kill unborn babies in the womb, we can kill old sick people, but we're not allowed to kill criminals.
Yes.
Extremely violent mass murdering criminals, we can't kill them, but we can kill innocent babies in the womb, and innocent dying people, we can kill them. We can't kill the guilty. If they'd have brought this in at the same time, capital punishment again, I may have had a different opinion. But they just completely make the wrong choices. They're given 2 choices and they always pick the one I thought they would never pick.
I know, I was shocked the way it happened. I really was. It just seemed to just happen, didn't it? Laura Perrins, who's on Twitter, said, in 5 years, the most efficient department in the NHS will be the assisted dying one.
Yeah.
And of course it will be, because that's easy. It doesn't require any particular skills.
Well, they will attract the most incompetent nurses and doctors.
Oh, yes.
Because we can't sack them. Let's send that department, because they'll kill him even quicker. And there can be no suing us either.
Yeah. So when you go to the NHS in 5 years' time, when you go into the geriatric ward and it's full of little old ladies who are getting ready to get their treatment, there'll be a new ward, won't there, assisted, full of little old ladies as well, queuing up to be killed.
Yeah.
That's what it's going to be. I mean, it's just horrific when you think about it, isn't it?
It is, but it doesn't surprise me because of how over the last 50, 60 years we've been treating old people in this country. We abandon them. We abandon our parents and grandparents.
Yeah.
We hand them over to the state.
Yeah.
We let immigrants look after them, clean their bums and feed them. We leave them alone in their houses. We've been treating them appallingly all my life.
Yeah.
This is just the next stage. So really,
it's the final step.
It's the final step. I to a certain extent, I don't blame the government, because I would imagine a lot of the population are quite happy with this.
Well, clearly they are, because the majority of the MPs voted for it. Yeah. And I think when they've done polls, it is generally 50-50. Yeah. So I think you and I are unusual in that we just think this is bizarre and inhumane and horrible. I think a lot of people don't. And there may be pecuniary reasons for that, because they think, well, I can get the old ears shuffled off soon and get my money. It's
a simple solution to a complicated problem, which is, how do I look after my elderly parents? Yeah. They're really eating into my time. I don't want them living with me, or if I do, I know somebody who had one of their parents live with them, lasted weeks. She then shipped them off to a home because I can't do this. And we keep rejecting our personal responsibility, and we reject our family responsibility. We're not a family orientated society anymore now. And that's one thing we can learn off immigrants.
Yes.
Because immigrants still are.
Yeah.
They still have intergenerational families.
Yeah.
They still have grandparents living with them, looking after them.
Yeah.
And that's how we used to be.
That's how they're enriching our community.
Well, that's how we used to be. There's something we can relearn off the migrant population.
All this stuff we're talking about now, quite a lot of the things we talked about today, come the revolution, Nick, when you and I gain power, and we are running the country, and I see myself as I'm kind of the RFK to your Trump. That's how I'm seeing myself, or preferably the Elon Musk, but more like the RFK to the Trump. So come the glorious revolution, when we seize power and give the people what they want, there's a hell of a lot to turn back, isn't there? There's a hell of a lot of work to do, because it's not just assisted dying, it's not just the immigration thing. Cycle lanes. We've got to rip up all the cycle lanes to make the roads worthy again as well. There's all sort of pull down all those wind turbines, fix all the potholes. There's a lot of work to do.
There is. Half the problems can be never enough fixed overnight, because it's just an introduction of a new law. So assisted dying bill, yeah, it's now illegal. Let's end of that. But some others, you're right, will take a lot of time. I like what Trump's doing. Trump, he seems to be giving himself a really tight time frame of what he's going to do. Elon Musk announced that his department will do everything in 2 years, then close down.
Right.
2 years
It's gonna be,
to fix the waste in American government, and then we're closing down.
It's going to be wholesale slaughter, isn't it?
Wholesale slaughter. He's going to come in just like he did Twitter. He's going to scrap everything, and then when it turns out, do you know what, we really need a department? Oh, well, we'll bring a mini version of that department back if we need it. But to begin with, it's all going until we prove that we actually need that tiny bit of that department. So
you know what he should do is he should sack all the incompetent people from every single post, and then the competent people that are left, move them into some other roles temporarily, and then if something needs to be done, move those competent. So just get rid of all the incompetent. So don't focus on departments, just focus on incompetent people. Get rid of all the incompetence and let the competent people fill some of the roles that normally they're probably overqualified for. Then when he needs to step things back up again, just promote them back up again.
It would be very hard to determine who was competent and incompetent, because even competent people look incompetent when you're working within an incompetent system. Some of the incompetence you'll know straight away. So when I worked at Manchester Council, I always said 50% of the people at Manchester Council were incompetent. 30% of people weren't incompetent, but just followed the system because they'd learned you can't fight it, you can't change it, just go along with it. And then, there was always about 5% of people who spent all their time trying to change the system, would burn out and would leave. And that's why I left in the end.
Wouldn't you just go up to I get every person in one at a time and say, who would you voted for in the American election? Trump or
You're not going to get an honest answer there.
If you say Trump, right, you know what, you've got a job. Next.
Oh no, that would work.
It would work.
Because the incompetent people are more likely to give you the truth and say, oh, Kamala, because they're too stupid to realise I should have lied.
Yeah.
So you'll only get sneaky incompetent people left.
Yeah.
At least you've got rid of some of the incompetence.
Well, sneaky incompetence and hope is a bit brighter, aren't they?
Yeah.
So that's the way I'd do it.
That would work.
Yeah. The only problem is the first one you sacked would go back and tell the others, wouldn't they?
But not if they're incompetent.
Actually, what you could do is you could say, if they say, Harris, right, you're hired, let them put them in a separate room, and then when you've got them all together, then just say, we were joking, you're actually fired.
Yep. Or you just say, we'll write to you in a fortnight.
And the other thing I was thinking about on the assisted dying, there was an advert during COVID saying to a little old lady with a mask on, saying, look her in the eyes and tell her you never bent the rules. The same apply. They should use that advert again now, can't they, for old people? Yep. Look her in the eyes and tell her you're not going to bend the rules and get her killed when she doesn't need to be killed.
Well, look her in the eyes and tell her she's going to be warm this winter.
That's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one.
It's a constant attack, isn't it? It's a constant attack.
It's unrelenting.
And then people will be saying, yeah, but why the government doing this? And they're not evil. Well, have a look at, if we get rid of loads and loads of old, frail people, what are the benefits to government?
Yeah.
NHS frees up a load of time. The amount of bed blocking old people do because there's nowhere to send them.
Yeah.
The amount of resources old people, I forgot the stats now, but the last 10 years of someone's life, they use more NHS resources than they do all part of their, before that.
Yeah.
So if you can knock off those 10 years, you're freeing up the NHS, which is failing.
Yeah.
We're then looking at, not paying pensions. We're looking at councils saving money with adult social care, saving money on bus passes. It's just saving, because old people produce nothing for society anymore. Their worth as socialist workers ended when they retired. They now give nothing positive to the state. That's what Stalin is looking at and Keir Starmer is looking at. You don't give us anything back now. You just take. We can lower your numbers. It's just pure benefits for society. That's how we're going to get to the socialist utopia, is by getting rid of hangers-on like old folk.
You sounded like you were actually supporting that. Can you just leave our old people alone, please, Nick? But no, that's a horrific picture you
Isn't
painted.
it?
But it's horrific for old people that they must be seeing this now and thinking, yikes.
Yeah. And another thing they'll be thinking of as well for the economy, if we can get all this capital out from underneath old people to the younger generation, they're more likely to spend it in the shops. They're more likely to do up that house. We need more builders. You're going to have to go B&Q and buy stuff. They're more likely to buy a new car with their inheritance. That is all a big injection of cash and money into the economy. So it makes sense there as well. But old people sit on the big house and sit on the savings.
You're a hard man, mate. I want to finish this episode 60 of The Mayor and I talking about our favourite media organisation, the British Bastard Corporation, or the BBC as we know it.
The crap, aren't they?
They are just crap. And I think this week they have confirmed unequivocally that they hate women, basically. They've named 2 winners of awards.
Yep.
One to do with one is the BBC Women's Footballer of the Year.
Yep.
And the second one is I think it's the BBC, it's the Women of the Year. So it's kind of the overall Women of the Year. So the BBC Women's Footballer of the Year is a bloke called Barbara Banda. He's an African man who pretends he's a woman. He's not even allowed to he wasn't allowed to compete at the Africa Cup of Women's Cup of Nations because he is a man. And the BBC made him the BBC Women's Footballer of the Year. And the second one was I can't remember the name now, it's a Colombian transgender economist or something. I don't know if you know what her name is.
I can't remember her name.
Who basically specialises in identifying the fact that palm trees are transgender.
Yeah.
Or some other such bollocks. And she's in the top 100 achieving women of the year. Along with about 86 black and brown people, basically. So, I mean, the veil's lifted, isn't it? On the BBC.
Only for their being captured under this ideology. The BBC don't hate women. The people who picked these women to go on the list would have been women who work for the BBC and their judges and stuff like that. So let's talk about the African footballer first. If you fail a testosterone test in Africa that's wide open to bribery, corruption, half the systems don't work, their testing systems don't work, and you fail that test, then you're not just a man, you're a man's man.
You've got very high testosterone levels.
He's got 3 bollocks. That's how much of a man he is. He's got 3 bollocks to fail in Africa. Jesus. And the BBC class him as a woman.
Not just a woman, the BBC Women's Footballer of the Year.
Well, because he's special, because he's got 3 bollocks. Have you ever met a woman with 3 bollocks? That's why he's won the Footballer of the Year. And when he's dribbling with the ball, he's got 4 balls on him. That's why he's won it. He's special. And then the Colombian economic queer professor, whatever she is, talking about queer in economics and palm trees and crap like that.
Have you seen a picture of him?
Yeah.
He's like, I mean, he looks like a lorry driver. He's got he's got big beefy forearms.
Yeah, big tits, big fake tits.
I didn't notice.
Yeah, he had the low cut top on the picture I saw.
I wouldn't fancy my chances in a dark alley with him. I really wouldn't. I reckon he could beat the crap out of me.
Well,
quite decent.
Don't be misogynistic around him then. Now, why have the BBC done this? This is all gender ideology. So the BBC do not hate women. And I know that the writer, J.K. Rowling, said something funny online that the BBC should... It'd be easier for the BBC to go around women's houses and just spit in the face.
She said she said, it's more time efficient. J.K. Rowling, I love her now because she's not. When she first started, I know you don't like her, but when she first started, she was kind of coy about it, saying, "I love transgender." And now she's just all like, just bastards. But she said it's more time efficient for the BBC doing it this way than going door to door to spit directly in women's faces.
I found that very, very funny. That was very funny from her.
Yes.
Now, the BBC, the people who've picked these women on that will be women. This is a female problem.
This is a bit I don't get.
Yeah, I'm sick of people blaming mentally ill men for this problem. Mentally ill men are mentally ill men. They got invited into women's changing rooms and sports and academia and into all these female-only spaces. They were invited into them by women.
Yes.
So this is a civil war within feminism. You've got some feminists who are called progressive feminists who agree with all this, and anyone can be a woman, and he's a beautiful woman, and he's got the most feminine penis I've ever seen. And then you've got the other feminists who we call TERFs, we still don't like men, and we don't like trans women, not because they're women and not because they're trans, because they're really men. So they dislike trans women because they're really men. Now, they need to sort it out between themselves. It's not, our men can't get involved in this because we would naturally go on the side of women. But there's women on both sides.
Yes.
So men don't know which side to take. Women need to grow a pair, excuse the pun, grow a pair, just like J.K. Rowling is doing, so give us some credit there. Women need to sort this out, and women need to educate other women on this, and the women need to change. And once women come to a consensus, men will stop mentally ill men entering your spaces. That's our job.
So you think once men get the support from women to stop it, that's when it'll stop?
Once women have come to a consensus that they don't want this, men will do the rest of it. Because you can't expect a 4'2" woman to go up to a 6' transgender woman and try to go, you out. Especially if they're on their own. That's scary.
Yeah, they are scary. These characters.
But then that's when it's down to men. But at the moment, women are sending competing messages to men. Because some women we meet go, it's fine, it's wonderful, be kind, femininity is open to everybody, and other women are going, this is evil, why have we got mentally ill men in our space? It's like, well, you just need to sort it out between yourselves, because you've been telling us for 100 years you don't need us to sort your problems out. So sort it out between yourselves. When you've done it, let us know, and then we know what to do then. This is a female problem.
I think it is, and I have this argument with my wife a lot, because I always say this is women encouraging this.
It is.
And I remember, I think I told you, we went down to the Labour women's meeting just before COVID, and it was basically saying getting trans women out of sports or whatever. There was a mob outside of activists, some trannies, but a lot of women.
Yes.
And then when I came out towards the end, I had to go and help the women to keep these people away. When we finally left, a woman with a bloke was walking past, and she pointed at me and said, "He was in there, that bastard. He was in there, supporting those bastards who hate trans people." And it was a woman. I was like, "What the frick is wrong with you?" Because I thought at that point I was only creepy men who would be.
Yeah, no.
But it wasn't. There were a lot of women protesting outside.
This has got nothing to do with mentally ill men. There's always been mentally ill men. There's been men out there who'd always liked to dress up as women, call themselves barber, and use the toilets, female toilets. They've always existed, but they never dared do it because of the consequences. But women invited them in. Not all women, but a significant proportion of women invited them in. They caused this problem. And other women now, instead of highlighting that and blaming their other half of the women, they blame mentally ill men. That's why this problem's not going away, because the women who are against it don't know who the enemy is. The enemy is not the mentally ill men. It's half the female population.
That's a really interesting take, actually. That's a really interesting take. Yeah. I mean, I think we talked last time, didn't we, about Trump and what he's doing to the transgenders in the army. That has got to have an impact at some point, hasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. because I mean that's the sharp dislocation, isn't it, or relief between that happening and in the same week that happens, the BBC promoting these two transgender men in this situation.
But that happens every year.
Yes.
So for the last decade, there's been men on female-only lists by the BBC every single year. It's not new.
I think that brings us to a close, episode 60 of The Mayor and I. Nick Buckley, MBE, thank you very much. And if our gentle listeners could thumbs up, like, subscribe, comment, it would be much appreciated.
Yep.
We've got to get those subscribers.
We do. And I put a different book here today. This is my first book, published 4 years ago. And I wrote this book after I was cancelled and then fought back and won. It's partly about that, but it's really about, I called it Lessons in Courage. So I talked about where I found my courage to fight back, which was a really difficult part of my life. But then what experiences, what things had happened to me previously that gave me courage, that gave me the will to want to fight back, that gave me the skills, and I discuss it all in there.
Please buy the book, ladies and gentlemen. Nick Buckley, thank you very much.
Thank you.